Hey guys, so here's the next flower essence video about the sprays that I've been working with. Again, it's from the Flower Essence Services Company. You can get it from their website or on iherb.com, IHERB as in boy.com. Also, I apologize if you hear cats in the background. They're hungry, and this is my last video that I'm filming on flower essences. Hopefully they hang in there. Um, anyways, uh it says a symphony of white lilies to nourish feminine qualities of the soul. And what caught my eye when I purchased this flower essence is it said that this essence was really useful for helping women navigate big life moments such as um, getting married or having kids, going through divorce, menopause, having a period, like the moments in our life where we are like changelings and like we have these new roles that come into our existence. This essence is really useful for, and I love that it's called grace. I feel like this is an energy I've been working a lot with recently is the energetics of grace and being able to cry and grieve with grace and being able to adapt and evolve, maybe off balance, maybe limping, but still like held in grace, the grace of my soul, the grace of God and Goddess and Gaia. Um, So that's why I purchased it. I have not used the full bottle yet. I've gotten about a quarter of the way through it. And again, I spray front heart, back heart, side heart, two sprays in the mouth. This one I've only done once a day. I have not done it twice a day. I feel like when I started this spray a few weeks ago, it was during a really pivotal like planetary transit. Of course, it was like synchronicity and divine timing. There's a lot of karmic transits going on right now for the collective as well as for me in my natal chart. I have a Neptune complex and I believe Neptune's doing some shenanigans right now. Um, and so at that moment, a conversation that needed to happen for 6.5 years now, finally kind of started to happen with my what I would call twin flame person, my twinsy. And yeah, that activated so much emotions from the past that I had not been able to access or process, and I had really, really carefully buried them. Um, and that situationship, which is what it was towards the end, there wasn't really room to grieve or process or anything because then I met my partner 3 months later. And then we ended up moving in together because of the pandemic. And then we've been together since. March will be our 6 years. And so, and then we got married. I want to say we got engaged at like a year and a half, and we got married at like 3 years in, 2 years in. I can't remember right now. I gotta look at the calendar. But yeah, and then the wedding had so much stuff that happened too, because then there was Chiron retrograde going on when we were engaged and planning for the wedding, which those who know Chiron, it is our life wound planet. And so when we were engaged and preparing for the wedding, like both of our Chiron wounds were like butting heads and ripping each other apart. Like his Chiron is in Taurus and my Chiron is in Cancer. So mine's the wound of abandonment, whereas his is like the wound of low self-esteem. And this can show up as obviously low self-esteem, but then struggles with time management, moderation, and materialism, which when you think of weddings, there's time management, there's materialism, there is a need for moderation. And then the esteems do show up in the wedding, right? And then for myself, it was the wound of abandonment. And I was very aware that my biological mother wasn't there, my biological father wasn't there, none of my biological siblings were there, and none of my biological grandparents were there. And thankfully, my biological cousin that had came into my life, I think a year before that, she did me the honor of coming in and showing up to represent family. And I really, really appreciate her being there. However, it was hard because then my husband, all of his family was there. It was like a huge family affair. And I feel like there was very little sensitivity to the fact that I, the bride, did not have biological family to show for me. And so it was like more so they wanted to do things a certain way during our photography, and it created a lot of strife. And then hubby was like a little groomzilla. And then there was really difficult conversations before the wedding and after the wedding regarding like in-laws, sister-in-law as well. And I mean, to this day, we're still unpacking some of that stuff. And unfortunately, communication was not well received from myself to my sister-in-law. And there's that, which think about that, it's two women who are part of the same family now. Um, and so when I used this essence, it was really interesting because with the ex slash twin flame person, all of the stuff was opening up because of like Neptune and this huge karmic transit. And I think Pisces was involved too. And then we also have like the actual moment in time when I got married, which was during a Mercury retrograde and a Chiron retrograde. And there was all this riffraff back then as well, which when we have karmic transits, it's usually stuff from the past. And then the wedding was also the past. And so working with this and then having those planets in effect, I feel like all kinds of shiza just flooded out of me. I had so much high cortisol. I had such a horrible time sleeping as like all this old cortisol unlocked itself from my body from the conversation with the twin. And then all of a sudden, all these flashbacks of the wedding and all the things that I've allowed that I wish I had known better and not allowed showed up. And I feel like this essence, grace, really helped bring to light and held me in grace as I looked on the past at all the things that I had tolerated, all the things I had allowed, all the things that I had enabled, um, all the parts where I had been toxic as well. Yet holding me in grace, it also had given me like that bird's eye view of everything that led to me behaving in that way. And then it gave me that bird's eye view of like all these things that were going on with masculines in my life that was just totally not okay. And to this day, like I still have sorting out to do, right? And so I feel like this essence really made way for that to come out. And then I use this essence also to spring clean on having children. Having children seemed to come into my awareness having started this essence, which this essence is to help women with female transitions, right? And so having children came up, and then I realized I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I was wanting to have children because of my abandonment wound, my Chiron and abandonment, and it was for all the wrong reasons. Like I love kids so much. There's never been a kid that's been a stranger to me. Like I just vibe so well with children. My favorite job was like being a reading tutor in elementary. Loved it. Um, but it's like, I don't know. I knew at a young age that I wasn't going to necessarily have kids. It was weird. Like at 10 or 11, I remember very clearly being aware that if I did not have children, that that would end a part of the lineage. And I was very aware of it. I don't know where this awareness came from. It wasn't like my mom was telling me that or anything like that. It was just something I was very aware of. And I think it's part of my soul contracts and part of why I chose the lineage I incarnated into. I think I'm supposed to cut off a loose end and seal it or cauterize it through being me and the life that I live. And in that way, parts of the lineage get to be laid to rest while new growths get to occur in other parts of the lineage through my siblings, right? Um, and so there was that. And then also having been adopted and having siblings that have been adopted, I have always been an advocate for adoption. And there's a lot of little people at my work that are in the foster system. And I feel, and I've always felt that there's just so many children that need love, that do need a home that can take care of them. And then, yeah, it's like this essence like wiped away that whole veil. It wiped away me bamboozling myself. It wiped away the like, oh, if I have kids, it means I can have a partner that doesn't leave me and a kid that's gonna love me unconditionally, which if I'm real with myself, like my Chiron has to do with abandonment and knowing how healing's cyclical and layered, I'm willing to bet my kid is probably gonna hate me later in life. because that would further activate that wound of abandonment, right? And then that would be a new layer of healing and a new layer of transcendence and further pulling out of that Chiron wound and transcending it. Not saying that that's what I want to happen, but I could definitely see that. Um, and so, yeah, I just got to thinking of all these things. And then I was journaling on it. I spring cleaned on it. I swamped on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much energy. And then I noticed I was getting like a tug of war as I was working with this essence with like the heart. Like the heart wants what the heart wants, and the heart will totally ignore red flags. So then my heart was thinking of the twin and all the like forgetting all the red flags and only thinking of the green flags. And then thinking of current partner and only looking at all the red flags and then being aware of the green flags, but like just looking at the red flags and being fed up and done. And I realized it was just all this animosity and resentment from like when we got married, the lead up to the wedding, all the difficult conversations that were had, all the emotional check-ins that I had instated for us to have, all the healthy communication that I had initiated and followed through with, trying to model for my partner. And like just all of the like enough's enough came up through this essence, which I thought was really, really interesting. And I had to be really careful not to get swept away in the past of the twin and needing to get the twin out of my system, basically. And then I didn't want to get swept away in like the past of like all the stuff that my partner and I have gone through when we've gone through it together. We've worked, we've grown, we're still shifting, we're still growing. Yes, we have contemplated divorce and now we're contemplating children, but it doesn't mean I have to get swept in the past. I need to be here in the now where the mirroring and the presence is that has been lending light to our healing, right? And we have a very karmic relationship, my partner and I. And so balancing those karmic scales through presence, through being in it together, is something that my heart is prioritizing at this time. However, it was for a moment when I first started working with this essence and with those planetary transits really hard not to get pulled into the past. And then I was led into family constellations. I'd had it on my calendar for a couple months. And I feel like that was really helpful and healing in so many ways. And this flower essence really complemented it because Family Constellations does this work. If you haven't seen the show Another Self on Netflix, you totally would benefit watching it if you're into constellations work or energy work or mental health. It's a super good show. But it helps you do ancestral healing, is basically what Family Constellations does. And right now I'm in the midst of a 40-day devotional for ancestral healing. This is my ancestral crown that I made. I love it so much. Um, and so working with this and the family constellations and the ancestral healing, that's actually part of where this crown came out of. I feel like this combined with the active 8 one that I talked about helped the crown come to life. But then the constellations work, it was really interesting because it took me to a part of myself that was 4 years old and ancestrally entangled with my mom, who's actually my biological grandmother that raised me, and in becoming ancestrally entangled with her, I took on living the life she was living. I took on living the life she wanted to live. And she always wanted a lot of children and she only got to have one. And then, like, unfortunately, her grandkids got signed away to the system and now they're back in her life, but we still have dysfunction, unfortunately, in our family. And so she doesn't get to be the grandparent that she wanted to be. She didn't get to have all the kids she wanted to have. And so I feel like there was a part of me that was wanting to have children because of that Chiron abandonment wound, but it was also because I was carrying that burden that I had taken on for my mom because I loved her so much. And having done the constellations work combined with the essence and returning her energy to her and all of that burden to her and having her be able to return energy that she was carrying. She was carrying a lot of energy for masculines on one specific part of our lineage. It made it crystal clear, like I did not want to have biological children. And so now my partner and I are in that stage of partnership where we're like, dang, these are the conversations we wish we would have had before marriage that nobody told us we needed to have because everybody just acted like we were doing the right thing. We thought we were doing the right thing. We thought we were being conscious about it, which, I mean, at that time we were as conscious as we could be. I feel like we're more conscious now than we were then, but we're growing, right? So then working with this essence continued to help me show up for myself as a woman and tell my partner, like, hey, I don't want biological children. I want to adopt. I think once we get out of Florida, it would be a good idea for us to go ahead and um, revisit the conversation of contemplating divorce and contemplating children. Meanwhile, the goal is to get out of Florida, so we're in agreement about that. Uh, and yeah, like that's where we are. And so we're creating these memories and moments together that have actually become a lot more enjoyable. It was really interesting too with the constellations work because my mom had a divorce and I feel like she never got over it. She still harbors feelings that are like they happened yesterday and they happened 35 plus years ago, right? And I feel like having done the constellations work, now I see my partner through a lens of affection. I actually find him attractive way more than I did before. I don't find myself as annoyed by him. I don't find myself as bitter and man-hating. And I'm like, oh wow, is that really like all of like my family member, my female family member's stuff? Like, wow, wow, wow. Like still adjusting to the shifts. My body feels younger. It feels more feminine. It feels more supple. It feels happy to get in shape now and exercise in ways that I enjoy. It feels happy to get back into accessorizing with the flower crowns and makeup and playing with the wigs and bringing vibrancy to the camera in ways that I can't at my current job. Um, and yeah, I feel like it's in part because of this flower essence and the grace that has been given to me through exploring and healing and moving out these energies of my feminine, with her heartbreak before her marriage and then her marriage and all the initiating that marriage has been. I feel like there's been lots of rites of passage that have happened for Chris and I in our marriage, in our partnership. Also, I apologize if you hear the timer going off in the background. I think my crock pot is ready. Um, and yeah, so it just really has helped me kind of go back in time and cut off loose ends and unravel things and tidy things up with my feminine energies. And it's giving me like that, it feels like my inner masculine has come in to have my back now that I'm like, hey, I don't want to do this. My inner masculine's like, hey, she doesn't want to do this. Like my inner feminine and my inner masculine are becoming more unified in love, which those on a twin flame journey, that is a huge part of the twin flame journey is unifying your inner masculine and inner feminine energies inside. And so through realizing where I wasn't true to myself, because my wounds were clouding my vision and misguiding me in some ways. Um, there's the timer again. Because yeah, the wounds were doing that, then it's like I wasn't unified inside myself. But now with working with the spray in the family constellations, it feels like my inner masculine and inner feminine are way more working as a team. And then it reflects back to me because my partner and I are shifting so many things at once right now. Like we were going to move to Missouri, and now we're like, nope, we're moving into Mexico. And New Mexico just has so many more opportunities presenting for us. And Missouri wasn't having the opportunities, and now it seems like our finances are taking a new form and shape that's more structured with more strategy. It feels more achievable and like we can handle it as a team. And it feels like there's more unification happening in my partnership, even with the contemplating divorce, contemplating children on the table. Which I mean, love is like that. There's so many nuances, right? Relationships are like that. It's not black or white. And even if you have a thing that comes up that's like a deal breaker conversation, um, you don't just break the deal right there in the moment. You have to honor and go through the processes you have to honor and go through as a team if you really are committed to love and um, respecting one another. And so all of this has come up for me just in the short little time that I have been working with this flower essence. Um, and it really did complement the family constellations work. And then I did some swamping, which is somatic dancing, where you dance out anger, followed by a song for grief, and then a song for turn on. I did that a few times. It even made me more clear. And it feels like the cortisol that was charging through my body with the twin has toned down quite a bit as I unify more in myself. And I thank him so much for appearing in my conversations as of recently in the way that he has, because per usual, he has catalysted me towards great change. And it's not through talking to each other all the time, it's through really profound points in time that our souls agreed upon in our twin flame journey. And then with my partner, I'm so grateful that we're able to love each other and explore the nuances of love together. And that he is a safe space for me to co-regulate with and explore these emotions of my feminine with grace in the way that he makes possible through loving me entirely um, as I am, and vice versa. Like we are a team and we do love each other. And I feel like this essence is really helping tighten that up, adjust that, and get us going into new horizons. And I'm curious to see where they take us, whether it's as a couple, as friends. Maybe we're adopting children together, maybe we're going our own ways, but my adopted child plays with his biological kids and we're good friends when we're older. I don't know, but it's really cool to have that grace of the flower essences working in my energy field at this time as I contemplate all of these things that I have been contemplating, because contemplation is an art and it does require time. Contemplation means you like sift through and sort out all the many thoughts. You don't ruminate, you truly contemplate, think the thoughts, write the things down, and let things fly away just like birds do in the sky. And then eventually things become more clear. But you have to give yourself the time and the grace to contemplate, right? And especially as a woman, I feel like we're expected to do so many things um, constantly. We're not given the time to contemplate. And this spray, I feel like, would really help work with the time you have to contemplate, or it would help you take a stance for more time to contemplate things that might come up for you upon using this flower essence. Anyways, that's what I got on the Grace flower essence. Thank you so much for tuning in. Time to go turn off my timer and the crock pot. Sorry if that sound was really loud. Anywho, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.